Okay, so this is Girls That Get It, and I'm really excited to have you. I really appreciate you coming on my first episode.
My God, I am honored to be her first episode. Like, you could have chose somebody better, but thank you for having me.
You know what?
I feel cute.
Well, you look cute.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So the first, I actually wanted to mention it. The first, you and your husband made such a great first impression to Isaiah and I, because it was at Center when we were having the Do No Evil event.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so you guys did like a podcast upstairs, but then afterwards when like everything was clearing up and dying down and stuff, you guys bought everyone In-N-Out.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Literally, like, you guys, like, what do you guys want?
But that's because we were hungry. We stay hungry.
There's nothing wrong with that. But it made such a big impression on us because it was just like, I don't know. I don't feel like that's as common where people are just go out of their way to, bless people and be giving and stuff. So I just wanted to mention that. I was thinking of that last night where I was like,
I didn't even remember that until you just said it. But thank you. It's probably the way that we show love to people. It's food, and I think it's how we grew up. Mm-hmm. Like, anybody that comes to our home or household is like, do you want a water? Do you want a meal? Or do you want something? I'm not kidding. The cable guy could show up, and he has to get something to drink or to eat, or we feel so guilty.
Really?
The one time I forgot to tell somebody, hey, do you want a cup of water? When I was living at my mom's house, before I got married. My mom almost strangled me. She's like, I have never raised you to be so disrespectful.
Oh my God.
How dare you not even ask them if they wanted to drink some water or something? And I forgot, like, I was so busy with like something, right? That I didn't even think.
She didn't let you have water the rest of the day?
Yeah, literally, she's like, you're horrible, like this. So anywhere we go, if we can accommodate, we will definitely try to feed people.
Traumatized by that, so you make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yes,
I love
exactly.
That. Well, that was like my first impression of you guys, and I loved it. And ever since then, I've watched. You're obviously done so well on social media.
Thank you.
But what I really also love about you on social media and just how genuine you are. Like, I think it's what a lot of people want to have on social media, which is like, I'm a real person, down to earth, whatever. But I really do think that you give that vibe off. But then also how you talk about your faith. Like, it just feels so easy to listen to and like non-judgmental. And you even approach some topics that are controversial. Like you'll have people ask questions on what they want you to talk about, and you'll talk about them. But the way that you talk about it is still so easy and nice. And like, so how did you get to this place on being able to like balance social media and your faith?
It's hard. I'm not kidding when I tell you that the amount of times I'm like, well, today I'm going to get canceled. But you get to the point where it's like, I believe in Jesus so much and what he has done in my life that it just comes so much easier than religion does. Mm-hmm. And I think that it took the shift in my life to move from like religion to just following Jesus to be able to answer these questions for people and to be able to answer those questions for myself. And the reason why I say this is because years ago, I'm embarrassed, years ago when I was like so into religiousness, that I would answer questions without being in the shoes of other people.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I would be like so judgmental about things. I'm like, oh, I can't believe you do this. I can't believe you go to the club. I can't believe you do all of this stuff. Like, you're going to go to hell.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, hold up. That's because you never gone to the club right now. That's because nobody ever invited you to a party. You're just mad and salty. But like other stuff, and then once I learned what Jesus was truly about, like for myself, not what my parents taught me, not what the church taught me.
Yeah, like your own foundation.
Yeah, when I figured it out for myself, then I was like, oh my God, I've had it wrong my whole life. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what made me like excited to answer people's questions because nobody answered my questions. Because then I started questioning stuff like at the church, like, why are we even doing this? What is this about? Like, this is not even biblical. Jesus never talked about this stuff, you know? And then they would be like, oh, no, stop. You don't question this because we say so. And then I saw how so many young kids, so many young adults left. And are they really leaving the church because they just don't want to follow Jesus and be holy? Or are they leaving the church because unanswered questions and perspectives that aren't even biblical, you know?
Yeah.
And until I shifted my mind to that, then I was like, oh my God, I've been part of the problem. So now I want to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
And that's
awesome.
kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah. I love that because it really is. I feel like I used to piggyback off of my parents' faith, and that was my foundation, was just theirs. So I had all of these, I guess, perceptions of what their idea was, what I grew up hearing from church, whatever. I had judgments. And then also I would feel like I could answer questions without any biblical knowledge. Like, literally, I just because I heard a snippet of what my parents said, then I had a foundation and I could judge you on it, or I could have an opinion on it. And then anyone would ask me, you could ask me, like, where in the Bible did you read that? And I'd be like,
yep.
Okay, I'm a fraud. Because I have absolutely no idea. So.
I think that shakes you when you're like, dang, I don't even know the Bible verse. I've just heard them say this, repeating it. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, this is not even there.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God, that shook me once when I started like reading the Bible myself and everything. And I started looking for some things that I had questions on. And I'm not kidding. I read the Bible. I Googled. I was like, the verse has to be in here. I can't even remember. I was like, the verse has to be in here. I've been taught this all of my life. And then I never found the verse. And then I'm like, so y'all just make whole preachings about this stuff that doesn't even exist. And then now I'm condemning people and there's specific things that don't even exist.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Isn't that crazy?
It is. But you know what? I will tell you, that's why I always tell everybody that follows me, don't listen to what I say completely. Don't blindly listen to my answers or to your parents or to whoever. Read the Bible for yourself. Learn about Jesus, and then you make your decision. Do I like this dude? Do I not like this dude?
Yeah.
But exactly. And then you go from there. And I think that's the best thing we could do.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. The reality is it's just finding value in building your own foundation with Jesus is like life-changing. But also, and it's something that I really fought against because I guess I call myself like a feminist, but I also kind of struggle with that because there's some feminists out there that I'm like, I can't get on board with what you're promoting. Yeah. But one of the big things, I went through like a lot of inner healing like a couple months ago. And one of the biggest things that I realized was that I had an issue with submission. I ran away from that word. Anything that had to do with it, I ran away from it because I was like, I'm a woman. I'm not going to submit to anyone or anything. Yeah. And I came from my household, it was very like, mom and dad, it was a very strict household. So for me, it was like, women submit to your husbands. And I had like a really bad knowledge on what that really was. So when it came to my husband, I was like, he asked me like point blank one day and he's like, do you feel like you're like submitted to like me or God? And I was like, no. Yeah. And I had no problem saying that. I was like, I don't feel like I need to do that. And the Lord, like, it's so, honestly, I love how soft and gentle the Lord is because I feel like a lot of uber religious Christians try and make it this like, oh, you're going to hell for this, that, or whatever. Yeah. If you're not following Jesus to the T, you're not going to get into the kingdom. Like, it's like, but how Jesus like really handles us is just so soft. Like it's like almost like he like put his hands on my shoulders and he's like, submission is not what you think it is. Yeah. Like it's actually just wanting to choose to love me. Yeah. It's wanting to choose to follow me. It's wanting to do even the small things where you think, I I can get away with this, or choosing to do the right thing or not. It's just choosing to do the right thing. And I still, obviously, I do not fully know what submission is, but he just like broke the chains on that. And so now I'm like, I want to be submitted to God. Like, I want to be with you because you hold me close so well. You love me so well. You know the worst parts of me, and you still choose to pursue me. Like, he wants one glance, like, from me, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, I want to see his whole face. Like, I want to be there right in the middle of it. But literally just to think that he just wants one glance from me, and that just makes him go crazy. It's like the best love story.
You know, I love that you brought submission into this, because that was something that I struggled with until I realized what submission was, because I am a very outspoken, energetic, like I have a very strong-willed sense,
Same.
right?
Yeah.
And you come for me, I'm going to come for you. I don't really care. Like, you know.
Doesn't matter who you are.
It doesn't matter. And I didn't submit completely to my parents, and my parents always had an issue with that. I didn't submit completely to God, or I didn't submit, because I thought submission was like, oh, you're allowing, especially to like a husband or to somebody, you're allowing them to step all over you. Like, if
exactly.
your husband beats you, you should be okay with it.
Yeah.
Because submit to your husband. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people preach that. They preach submission is like, you don't question what your husband says, or you don't question what God says. Like,
the head of the house.
Yeah, the head of the house.
You don't make decisions. You stay quiet and
you're just somebody on the floor.
Yeah, exactly.
But then I realized this, and I actually been like growing and trying to understand this. Submission is way different than what we thought. Like, example, we submit to the laws that we have in the United States. Like, put your seatbelt on when you drive. Mm-hmm. We're not like, oh, why do I gotta put my seatbelt on right now? Like, it's for your own good, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't think about it anymore. Mm-hmm. You're submitting to the law that we have because it's protecting us, right? The same way with like submitting to our husbands. I'm not gonna submit to my husband and he's gonna treat me like trash, right? Mm-hmm. He's gonna look for God to like guide us, right?
He's submitted to God.
We're a team.
Yeah.
And we work together. And because of that submission, it's not like, oh, I'm under and my opinion doesn't matter. No. That's why Jesus told us that we would submit to our husbands, because our husbands would love us like Jesus loves the church. Mm-hmm. That he would lay down his life. Like, if your man's not willing to take a bullet for you, why are you submitting to him?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I think it's simple. Like, it's not about who's on top or who's on bottom. It's just about protecting us. Like, I know my man has my back anytime. If somebody's trying to come for me, he's going to defend me. Mm-hmm. In the same way Jesus does with us. Yeah. Right? He's like, oh, you're my child. I'm going to protect you because you love me, and you show you love me through the things that you do through your life. Yeah. And it's not about like control. No. And a lot of people think it's about control. Well, and I thought about that.
I thought it was too, but I also think it's a lot about like who you choose to spend your life with, because it could be control. Because
that is
some
true.
Men could view that's like they have the end all be all. They don't change the diapers. They don't help with the babies. Like, you have your role. I can do what
and that's not right.
No, it's like, so if you choose to be with someone, you like make covenant with someone, and then, you know, we're called to submit, then it's like, well, you are submitting to that, and that's not right. Obviously, the Lord does
Jesus didn't say submit to abuse.
No, exactly, right? Yeah. So it's like, and I think that's kind of where it's hard, because it's like, if you're serving Jesus, he calls us to submit, right? Mm-hmm. Submit to him, submit to our husbands. So it's like, in that, it's like, pray and ask the Lord, like praying and asking the Lord to change like your husband's heart in that. But I think that's a big thing too, is like who you're submitting to, because me submitting to my husband is like my biggest champion, my biggest support. Like, he's not holding me down. He
would never do something to hurt you.
No, like, I have full trust to submit to him because I respect him, and I know that he respects me. So, and I know that he loves Jesus and he's submitted to Jesus. So if that's the case, like, Jesus has his heart and Jesus' heart is for me. So it's like a perfect working circle. So that was like a huge thing recently, that it's like, it's hard because in today's age, it's really easy to be like all about yourself.
Yep.
When Jesus called us to be all about people and all about others. And like, even me, like I'm like a super selfish person by nature. I'm finding that out.
I think that a lot of people think that Jesus was like against women and women were supposed to be lower and stuff like that. But the most radical belief, basically you could say feminist belief, was from Jesus, because Jesus literally told everybody that the women should be loved like the church, or should be, the man should lay down the life for the woman, which was insane because back then they saw women as property.
Yeah. Back
then the woman was not equal to a man. And the Bible talks about how back then, you know, you just bought a woman with gold coins or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Basically, and you could have multiple wives or whatever. And then Jesus comes in, he's like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. In fact, if you're a husband, you should take care of your wife and love her. You should do everything for her. Which, dang, that would be nice, right? Them paying for your bills all the time. Like, you know what? I don't want to work anymore.
I don't want to be in the field.
For real. No, but it's amazing. And like the second thing was that he let women sit at his feet and listen as he was preaching, as he was speaking, or the first people to announce that he had risen was women. And that's the most radical thing. Like when you see it in the Bible, people are like, oh no, the Bible depreciates women. They're trash. But then when you see what Jesus did, that he chose women to be the first ones to see that he had risen, you know that they had to, like, when they were writing the Bible, they were like, are you sure it was the women that saw him first? Because why would they allow women to be the first ones to see? A woman, yeah. Yeah. And they were the ones first because God wanted to show us that we were the same. We were created in his image as women and men.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that.
Yeah, and I love that. Once I understood that, I was like, oh, okay, Jesus, I see you writing for us.
Sometimes it's hard to read. I'm like going through the Old Testament because it's just as important as the New. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like I think I read about Lot.
Oh.
And I was like,
listen, don't get me started. Me and Lot could post up. Like, seriously.
I have a lot of men in the Bible that I can post up with, I feel like.
But you know what? I love that God put it in there because he showed us how jacked up these people thought. Yeah. And he still kind of like over time changed, and the lineage of Jesus comes from broken people.
Yeah.
That's where he was born through.
Yes.
So, because imagine if he came from a perfect lineage, then it would be unattainable to be his child.
Mm-hmm. That I actually learned literally, I think this year, like at my church, they were talking about what like Jesus went through in like his time on being on earth. He went through like every like emotion and feeling we did as humans. And I think that's like a huge thing is he almost sometimes feels so unattainable, unreachable, like out of the, obviously we can't see him. Like we're going by faith, but like seeing Jesus in the Old Testament and then seeing him in the New and then learning all the things that he actually went through in the New Testament, like that he actually can sit there and say, I know why you're feeling sad. Like I'm here with you. Like I felt this pain too, you know, and be able to minister to that part of my heart, because I think until like you really learn like the heart of Jesus, like what it is for you, and that he's actually like, he's the King of Kings, obviously. He's like above us, but he comes down to be with us.
Yeah, because he could really be like, I'm Gucci up here. I got streets of gold. I got all the riches. I got angels behind me. Who are you? Like,
of my shoe.
I mean, and he sometimes checks us, don't get me wrong. Like that's why I love like Job, and how God gives us the free ability to be able to question him.
Yeah.
But then he'll kind of check us and be like, okay, but were you there when I put the stars in place?
Yeah.
Were you there when I created heaven and earth? Like, if you weren't there, then why are you talking? Yeah. Like, you don't understand. You don't understand. And it's hard to comprehend that because we want to understand everything. Like, God, why would you do this? Like, you're unfair.
Yeah.
But God knows all of the outcomes of everything. Like, the world is so incredible, so beautiful that for us to humanly possibly understand everything, we would go crazy.
Yeah.
Like, Albert Einstein, like, he understood so much. Like, he found so many equations. I don't even know what kind of equations, to be honest, but so many equations to the universe, right?
Yeah.
And even then, his mind was already losing it because he
like
couldn't
mush.
comprehend it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, sometimes I'm like, okay, fine, God, I'll take a step back.
Yeah.
I'll understand that I can't understand everything, even though I hate it because I'm a control freak and I like that.
I am too.
Yeah, so it's hard.
Such a control freak. I'm finding out about myself, like the things that I'm not as perfect as I thought I was.
Are you like the oldest?
In the relationship?
No, the oldest.
In my family?
Yeah.
No, I'm the middle.
Oh, you're the middle child.
Which kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah,
like,
it does.
Yeah.
Kind of, because you didn't have really attention from parents as much as the oldest and the youngest.
Yeah.
So you still had control of your life to a certain extent.
My baby sister was a surprise baby. So my parents thought that they were done, and then she stole my baby title. And kicked me to middle.
That sucks.
I love her, and I'm glad that she's here, but she did do that.
She's like, but I still don't like her.
I still hold on to that little resentment to that a little bit. But no, I'm the
Was
middle.
that like a shock to you?
No,
How did that feel?
I was so happy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I was 8 when I found out, so I was so happy to have a little sister. But, you know, I make jokes about it because I'm like, I have middle child syndrome. I'm a middle child.
Yeah.
I'm like to a T, like what you would expect a middle child to be. So, but I was the baby for the longest time. I got all the attention. I was like the favorite. I still think I'm the favorite, but
yeah.
What about you?
They would never admit it. No, I'm the oldest. So I feel like I got it the hardest.
I feel like you were the guinea pig.
Oh yeah, like growing up as the oldest, especially in like a Latino household, is wild because you're expected to do so much more than anybody else. Like my brother and my sister can never say they did what I had to do. Like I had to wash the dishes even if I had homework. I had to cook for my whole family. I had to take care of all of them. Still to this day, if there's an issue, I have to fix it, right? And it's hard. I'm like, dang, y'all expect so much out of me. And then they're like, no, but we had to do. I'm like, you didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
I paved the way with bloodshed and tears.
I'm the glue that held this family together.
Y'all got it easy. Y'all get to go out, have fun. Me, on the other hand, no. I think it's hard because as a parent you don't have the manual, right?
Yeah.
To raise your child and you expect so much from them. So now that I'm gonna have another one, I'm like, dang, I expect so much out of Jaylene. She's 6 years old.
Yep.
And she gets ready on her own for school. Sometimes I'm like half asleep and I'm like, are you ready?
Yeah.
And then, I just get up to like help her brush her teeth and her hair and then we're ready to go. But I'm like, dang, I feel so bad because I expect so much from her. But then I'm like, I'm going to have to do that same with this one. Because I don't want her to ever feel like, oh, you made me get my own sister ready. You made me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's hard because she is going to be older. It is going to be easier for me to be like, go help your sister do this. Go help your sister. But in my mind, I'm like, crap. Okay, I have to switch it. I have to be like, you get yourself ready and you get yourself ready. Everybody go get equal treatment. For real.
Cyrus, we had a total like recall on our parenting because we realized how, and I don't think it's a bad thing to have high expectations for your kids, but they were, because he is such like a smart, he's like Jaylene, like he can take care of himself to some degree. He still needs me a lot. Yeah,
we just leave him at home. Yeah. Just kidding.
No, so we realized that we were the responsibilities that this kid had was like too much. Like it was like treating him like a teenager. Yeah. And we like really had to like come down to earth and be like, okay, he's he'll be 6. And with his sister now, we do that, like, because we're both working.
Yeah.
We work from home, but we're like, you guys stay in your room. Cyrus, take care of your sister.
Yeah.
And then we get mad at him if there's like screaming and something going wrong. We're like, why are you doing this? And it's like, he's just a baby still. And
I know.
I feel
it's hard.
so bad because I'm like, I swear I'm like ruining his childhood because he's having to like take care, like juggle a bunch of balls while he's like in his room, take care of his sister, take care of himself, be quiet, don't piss off mom and dad.
Still be 6 years old.
Still be 6 years old. So we're like in a total like,
but it's hard. It's hard because we see them and we're like, no, they're completely capable of doing this.
Yep.
And then I see other parents with 6-year-olds and they're like, oh, I hate that I have to get up in the morning and get them ready because if not, they never get ready. And I'm like, my daughter takes care. She can cook herself a meal if she needs to.
I know.
And then I'm like, dang, it's us. We're doing this to our kids.
Okay, but
it's good because you're teaching them.
It's good, but at the same time, like I've seen both extremes.
Yeah.
Where it's like the parents. I mean, I don't know. I didn't co-sleep with my kids. I don't have anything against it, but they have like a 6-year-old still in their bed. Like their children run their world. They don't tell their kids no. They don't discipline their children. And on one hand, I understand like there's some things that like, you know, I think for different people you need to figure out the kind of parenting that works for you with your kids. Mm-hmm. But then on the other hand, I'm like, we're supposed to discipline our children. Like we want them to be successful adults in life, right? But then there's the ones that are like strict army parents, you know, the kids are scared of their parents. So it's like finding like the medium balance of that where it's like I tell my kids no, they still can make their own food, but they're also still kids. Like I have no idea how I'm supposed to like balance any of that.
Being a mom sucks sometimes because you're just like, dang, am I even doing enough? Or like there'll be days that I'm like,
you never feel like you are doing enough.
You don't. And we're so hard on ourselves, but we are doing enough. Even if we make them a stale toast in the morning, at least they're getting fed.
Every morning that they wake up.
For real, the same.
Like my kids today.
I buy the cereal, you make it.
I literally feel bad sometimes where I'm like, my kids even today ate plain oatmeal. I drizzled a little honey and like raisins in it, and I'm like, this is like what they're getting. This is like the 3rd day.
Hey, that's healthy though.
It is, but like I think back on like when I was a kid and like the thought of having to eat oatmeal like 3 days in a row.
Mommy, what? You ain't got no creativity.
I don't when it comes to being in the kitchen. Like I'm not, Isaiah is the cook.
Okay.
I don't cook.
Yeah.
I don't cook. I don't
clean.
No,
I mean, let me tell you how I got this ring.
I could tell you how I got this ring. But no, so dude, he's like definitely like the cleaner person. He loves to cook. Mm-hmm. I've had to adjust and become cleaner being married because I've learned to enjoy it, but like I'm a messy person and I'm realizing how messy I am.
I agree. I'm the same way.
It's kind of gross.
It is gross because Jacob used to be way more organized than me. Me, on the other hand, my room will look like my thoughts. My thoughts are so unorganized all the time.
My parents used to tell me that. They used to say, the condition of your room is the condition of your heart.
And I'm like,
my heart is messed up.
My heart is litty.
Yeah.
No, the thing is, it's like, I'm like, I can only keep up with one thing in my life, sanity or my room clean.
Sorry, babe. Just push the clothes off the bed.
So we have to like figure out things that work for us. And the only thing like with my husband is like me, I love to cook. He has to wash the dishes and put them up. Because if I cook, then and I have to clean, I'm going to leave those dishes there till 3 days later. Yeah. So when I stop procrastinating and they're just going to stay there, right?
It gets too overwhelming.
Exactly. Or I'll put the clothes to wash. You can hang it up.
I can't do it all. I wasn't made to do it all.
I wasn't.
I really was not. I don't know how some women do it all, but I was not made to do it all.
Listen,
genuinely believe that.
The women who are stay-at-home wives are amazing, incredible, amazing wives. Because even though I stay home, I work. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't keep up with everything, like mentally, physically, emotionally. I just couldn't do it. I would be like stressed out. So y'all are the best, literally the best.
I love my husband. He definitely helps me out a lot. He keeps me sane. I don't know how he does it because I feel like he could do it all. Like, I mean, there are some times when like
let him do it all then. I'm just kidding.
I do most of the time.
Isaiah, hearing this, like, you're never inviting her again.
His ear is like getting bigger and throbbing listening to this. But like, yeah, I don't think I do as well with multitasking and like, and all of that. And I don't know. I honestly have no clue.
Imagine us not being able to multitask, but we decided to have kids.
Have kids, be married, be like self-employed.
Yeah. Everything that you're not supposed
to do, you're mixing it all together and doing it. I have a weird question.
Yeah.
What is the most pain that you've been in that's not physical?
It's not physical? Dang, that's a good question. The pain with my credit card declines at the grocery store.
With the line behind you.
Yeah. Actually, that was really bad.
Samaritan that God's bringing
for
to
real, you be seeing them on YouTube all the time paying everybody's groceries, but when you need them,
Where's
they're
Shaq?
not here.
I need him to just. Where's Drake? I need him to pay for my groceries.
I mean, that was bad, but I think those are more embarrassing than anything else. I think the hardest pain. Dang, why you got me? Do you have one in mind?
I think I have a couple. One of the biggest pains for me, I guess it was kind of emotional and physical, but was my miscarriage. That was probably one of my biggest pains that I still deal with, I think, today, like thinking about it.
Yeah.
But thinking, you're invincible and not really understanding what a miscarriage is or how common it is, and then having one and having to deal with that emotional pain on top of, because I already had my son. So I had to try and take care of myself. I already imagined we were trying for a kid. So I imagined the life we're going to have with this kid.
Oh, okay.
I waited, I found out early and I waited 5 weeks till Christmas to tell Isaiah so he could unwrap a gift.
Okay.
And then I lost the baby, I think a week after that. So I had known about it for a long time as a secret from Isaiah because I was so excited. And then
how did you keep the secret though? That's hard.
Yeah. I honestly don't know. I think back then I was such a hormonal mess. He probably
would have known. But you know what? That is crazy because, like you say, you have the illusion already. You're already thinking I'm gonna have another child.
That you find out you're pregnant. You start thinking of that.
You start thinking about it, especially if you're planning to have another baby.
Yeah, I think
it's hard.
I think people really don't understand that because I've heard some people talk about early pregnancy loss, whether you found out and you lost it a couple days or a few weeks. It's not the same as losing a child, but it kind of is because the second that you find out you're pregnant, you imagine your life with that child. You imagine the highs, the lows, the name, the birthday parties, school, all of it. And then when you lose it, it sucks because you don't fully understand why. And obviously you blame yourself. You're I could have done better. With my son, I have an eating disorder. So with my son, I had that while I was with him. And that is not anything that I had ever heard talked about, dealing with an eating disorder while you're pregnant. The eating disorder doesn't go away, but you still, it's almost you have to, you're trying to feed your child while being mentally ill and not wanting to feed yourself. And so with him, I think he stopped developing, around 33 weeks. I got my 36-week scan and they told us they needed to induce because he had stopped growing. I forget what the condition is, but they told me that it was more than likely because of that. He just wasn't getting the nutrients that he needed from me.
Yeah.
So I had to be induced with him. And then I don't know. I mean, that whole season of my life was really hard. But then being a young mom and wanting to get the second one over with, so getting pregnant and then eventually losing that baby, like I had so much shame and
it's easy to blame yourself. Yeah.
I thought that I was the reason. I was like, I made myself lose the baby.
And you know, we're never ever gonna understand why we go through loss, right? Yeah. And we just sometimes we have to realize, you know what, God understands the plan and the timing.
Yeah.
And it's just so much better to wait on God's timing, even though obviously it's a loss, and you know we have to take it as such, and it's okay to mourn.
Yeah.
But to understand that it's not our fault is better, and it's hard because as a mom you want to make sure that you're doing the best thing for your child. You want to make sure you're doing, and if something happens, you're obviously going to blame yourself. Like with me, with Jaylene, with this baby, they did a genetic testing, which I hadn't done with Jaylene, and then they found that like running down in my bloodline there was a really rare illness, like genetic disease that would cause blindness and no hearing, right? And I remember getting that, and they were like, well, we have to test your husband to see, and the possibility is literally 25% chance. So you have like 1 in 1/4 chance basically of your baby developing it. And I remember blaming myself. I was like, why didn't I get tested before I even decided to have kids? What if the baby ends up like genetically affected and can't enjoy life because they can't see or hear?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like we just have kids out of nowhere and we don't think about this stuff or whatever. But God knows the things that he does, you know, and he prepares our hearts, our minds for things to come. And I think that I just had to lay it down at God's feet and be like, you know what, I don't understand what's happening. Yeah. And I'm just praying that my child can see and hear, you know? And that's all I wanted, because a lot of people were like, oh my God, I get emotional. A lot of people were like, I hope your baby has your husband's eyes. Because he has beautiful green eyes. He's fine.
He great eyes.
He's so fine, y'all. Y'all have to see him. Follow my Instagram. Shout out to Evalyn Juarez official. But anyways, they're like, oh, I hope he has, or he or she has the baby's, Jacob's eyes. And in the back of my head, I would always be like, I was thinking, I just hope the baby sees. You know what I mean? And I'm grateful, obviously, once they did the genetic testing, that my husband is not a carrier, so he wasn't able to pass it down, because you both have to be carriers for it to be passed down. And I understood then that God was like, I am in control. It's nothing that you can do. Even if it was, I am still in control, you know? And it's not your fault. Yeah. And obviously it's not a miscarriage.
For that.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously it's not a miscarriage. This is not to take away from you, but
no.
I did learn that, and it's hard, and we can't blame ourselves.
In essence, you are almost mourning in a situation like that. You're mourning what you see as a normal life for your child.
Yeah, exactly.
So it would be a loss for you as
if
a
it would have been
a
situation like that.
Yeah. I think when it comes to genetic disabilities in general, obviously people who don't have that, you know, you see it as a loss, and that's because we have normal lives, but their lives are still a life, right? Like the Lord plans and orchestrates all of it. He has a plan and a purpose. People with Down syndrome, people with disabilities, a lot of times they have such a joy within them, because I really do feel like they don't get a lot of the crap that we see as like, you know, a bad day or whatever. Like small things are huge to us. And I feel like they just see the good in everything. And I feel like it's just an extension of the Lord's heart. And like even blindness or deafness, like the ASL community, we're learning more and more about it. Like it is a beautiful community. And a lot of them, if they were given the choice to be able to hear, wouldn't want to, because they get to drown out the noise of the world, and they have like a community built within it. And I think that that's like so beautiful. Going back to like what you're saying, it would still be kind of a loss in that, but then that's where you get to be with the Lord and like reprogram your thinking and like,
and have your faith in him. But you know, going back to the question, I think the hardest part for me was postpartum depression. I think that was like such an emotional roller coaster,
It's
horrible.
rough.
It was so rough that it scared me from having children.
Yeah.
Like it really did, because it's insane. Like you're not yourself, you're not your mind, you're not,
And it's all physiological. It's all hormonally, so you can't see it. So everyone else on the outside's like, what's going on?
And sometimes you don't even know you have it.
No.
And then you're like, oh, that's why I was acting wild.
Yeah.
That's why I was thinking weird stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember I would feel like, oh my God, why am I like a mom? Like I would sit and cry in my bathroom and be like, I'm a horrible mom. Like my life is ruined. Like I'm having kids so young. Like I'm going to be a really bad mom. I just can't do this. And I would like cry and cry and cry and never understood what I was experiencing, you know? And it was so scary, like so scary. It was such a deep hole that I never wished that upon anybody, right? No. And I'm so grateful God took me out of there, but I'm also grateful for the partner that he gave me, my husband. And that's why I always tell my girls, be careful who you want to have children with.
Literally. And
have children with your husband.
Yeah.
A husband who's going to ride or die for you.
Yeah. Not
just a random person, because if they're not going to be there for you, it's hard, especially if you go through postpartum depression. And my husband loved me through that situation. He loved me through, he knew that I hated anybody to even see me.
Yeah.
I hated how I looked.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to go out like to a simple
mirror.
restaurant, to like nothing. I just didn't want to be seen. I felt embarrassed. It was weird.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it. Yet he would make it to work. He still made me feel beautiful and special. And I will never forget. It was Valentine's Day, like 35 days after having my daughter. And he was like, I want to take you on a date. And I was dreading it. I didn't want to go like anywhere. I didn't want to go anywhere. I felt ugly. I felt horrible. And he prepared my house with like balloons everywhere and like hearts and like a romantic dinner, but at home.
At home, yeah.
Oh my God, I get emotional again. I'm such a baby. But he prepared it for me because he knew that I didn't want to go out. But he still understood that it made a difference to feel loved and appreciated. Yeah. And he did that for me for Valentine's Day. And I will never forget that, because it was like starting to heal the process, you know, like the healing process. And throughout that, he loved me so much. And I'm just grateful God took me out of there, and with the help of my husband. So y'all got to be careful who you have kids with.
Well, that also, and choosing, it's just, I don't know. I think that that's just so important, like who you choose to spend the rest of your life with.
And who's going to raise your children.
And having that mindset, like not having the mindset where you can have an out.
Oh, yeah. Divorce. Don't ever feel like that either, that you don't have an out.
No.
Especially if you're in a destructive household.
So that's a huge thing, right? I think within the church, divorce is like, it is
but that's wrong. That's not even in the Bible.
Right? So it's like, obviously it is something that the Bible talks about, that the Lord, you know, you're making covenant. It's like, you're not supposed to just I fell out of love, whatever. We're having, you know, struggles we can't get past. Like, there's things that like you have to choose to like work through, right? But when it comes to like certain situations like abuse, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, for me, I'm like, those are, the Bible talks about, I think the physical, right? The physical abuse on a woman or a man, because men get physically abused too. But I don't know. I'm like, I've seen divorce be really good for some.
That helps, yes.
Some situations.
A lot of people misinterpret the Bible verse where Jesus, they were like, oh, Moses says that if we don't want a wife anymore, we just give her a letter, basically a divorce paper, and we can divorce her. And then Jesus was like, no, the only way that you could divorce, and they use the word adultery, if somebody commits adultery. But the word is not right. The actual word is porneia, which when you translate it and you understand it, It's the breaking of the covenant in any way. And when Jesus talks about the way that the covenant should be between a wife and a man, it should be loving, protecting. So any physical abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse, or anything like that is being caused, that is a reason, and a valid reason in God's eyes to get divorced.
Yeah.
Because God is not like, oh yeah, take a beating, because he didn't cheat on you. He only beats you, so stay at home. Like, no, it's not about that. And a lot of people just say, oh no, it's just adultery, and they're not reading the Bible correctly. And you have to understand that concept. And so don't ever feel like you have to stay stuck in a toxic, horrible relationship, especially for your kids too. Because you could die, but you're also your kids could die. Or let's say it's not like physical, it's emotional. Your children grow up to see this and say it's okay.
Yep. Your girls are going to see that it's okay for a man to treat you that way.
And that
if
is
it's reversed,
horrible.
The boys are going to be able to see a girl can treat you that way. And like, why would we want that for our kids?
Exactly.
But I'm saying that as someone who obviously is not, my husband is not physically or mentally abusive of me. So I think being in those situations, it's obviously difficult, but I've been on both ends where I've talked with people who have gone through physical or mental, emotional abuse. And it's crazy because on the outside, you're like, how do you not see that this is what's going on? Like, you need to get out of this.
Yeah.
But they're so caught up in it. And like, there's shame attached to it. Like, especially in like Christian culture where it's like, what would people think of me? And it's like, who cares? Like, you're not safe. Like,
exactly.
You're literally dying within your relationship.
They're going to care once you're in a grave. Like, come on. But it's hard. It's really hard because when you're in these relationships, it's the same way as like a eating disorder. An eating disorder, and the reason why I bring this up is because I feel like growing up I had an eating disorder too, but it's almost like you don't even realize you're so deep in it.
Oh, I didn't know until like last year.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's also with abusive relationships because you realize this is just the way of life. I thought it was normal that I would just eat a whole chocolate cake. Like, I'm not kidding, a whole chocolate cake today, so tomorrow I'm not tempted to eat it. Like, seriously.
He goes and buys the chocolate cake the next day.
I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just finish it today and tomorrow I'll continue my diet. But in reality, it would have been the same if I ate a slice every day. Yeah. Right? And you don't realize, oh, what I'm doing is like really jacked up. But when you're living it in these abusive relationships, they don't even understand sometimes that they're being abused.
Yeah. It could have been what was modeled for them. Exactly.
Or it's the only way they feel validated, seen, or loved. And they don't understand, hey, that's not love.
Yeah.
And sometimes they really, it takes more than just, hey, get out. It's more like it takes people that have been in those situations to talk to them. Hey, the way that he's treating you, that's not okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm grateful for the people who have been able to get out and do so much to take those people out.
Yeah.
Because I could never understand. I don't know how that would work. Yeah. Jacob would have been dead a long time ago. You hear me? Like,
put your hand on me.
For real, you gonna see Jesus today, and you gonna ask him, could I hit my wife?
You're gonna get the book of life in front of you today.
You know
life
what?
Life or death.
For real.
No, that's yeah, it's crazy. I think that was one of the big things. Actually, that was a huge thing for me because I had to learn in a situation like that. I was talking with someone for a long time about, you know, their stuff, and I saw a lot of red flags, and I talked too much. Like, I made it known that I saw, you know, stuff happening, and then I kept doing it. And then it almost got to a point where I realized that I was almost judging them for not leaving. And so I was talking. And I realized that I was not being a safe place. Yeah. Like, my job in that is to be someone that whenever they decided what to do, if they decided to leave, that they knew that they could come to me, a judge-free zone. They needed a safe place because where they were was not safe. So,
and it's hard because we want them like, don't you see? Yeah. Don't you see? But it takes a little bit more than that.
Yeah, exactly. I learned that I needed to shut the heck up.
Yeah, 'cause sometimes, or like if you say stuff
I'm
like
a
that
fix-it
around them.
person. Yeah, I want to fix things. So I'm like, this is how you fix it. Like,
It's hard.
it is really hard.
But you know what? We're trying our best to be good women of God, good mothers, good everything. It's just like,
All
dang,
the above.
we'll fail a couple times. It'll be fine.
Well, failure is so good. And I think that that's something that I'm having to learn, which is crazy that I'm even having to learn it. But failure is actually like a good thing, right? It's like
Sometimes
it's
but that's
not,
true.
obviously.
That's true.
But it's, I was listening to something Dolly Parton the other day. She was talking about that. Like, she was like, I've literally come from the very bottom. She's like, I can only go up. So why should I like keep myself in the same place because of fear, because I'm scared to go forward. She's like, I might go forward and I might fail. She's like, but I went forward. I'm not going backwards. So like retraining the brain to be like, it's okay if I fail because one, I know I got God, I got my family, I have people, but it's just a way for me to say, okay, well, that didn't work. So I'm going to try something else. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go forward because I can't tell you how much it like irritates me to like for me myself to stay in the same place. Even seeing other people just stay in the same place, which it really shouldn't affect me the way that it does, but seeing that like almost irks me. Like I'm like, you could go forward. Even talking to myself, like you could push and do something.
You could be doing so much more. That's how I feel.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was like that for so long, where I was like, I was okay with just being depressed and staying on the couch and not going out, suffering from social anxiety. Like I was okay with just sitting in that junk because it was comfortable and I didn't want to be uncomfortable. But until I actually challenged myself and decided I'm ready to be uncomfortable, so I'm going to push to be good uncomfortable, where I'm challenging myself than just sitting in this like gross, dark place.
Yeah, you're right. Failure to a certain extent shows you where you don't want to be at, right? It is a luxury though to say failure is good sometimes, because failure could mean not being able to pay your bills the next day and being homeless, right? And some people don't have the option to fail in certain things in life, right? Like this is all of their savings. They can't invest everything they want into a company or to something like that, right? But failure does show you where you don't want to be in it. And it does take that, like I was telling you guys, when that debit card declined a couple of times, I was like, I'm never trying to be here. This is failure. I don't want to be here, so I'm going to work hard enough so I'm never here again, you know? So this is failing. How can I shift to move around in my life, right? And if you learn from what you fail from, then it's better. You know, take notes, be like, okay, plan A didn't work. How can I make plan B work?
Next time I shouldn't go out the night before. I need to go get groceries the next day.
Exactly. Maybe I shouldn't order that tomahawk steak that I couldn't afford.
That's so true. No, I can definitely acknowledge that there's some places where it is a privilege to be able to fail, because like I know immigrant issues is really big on your heart. So I think in some cases, like there's some people that failure is not an option. Especially like coming across the border, and it's like you literally can't mess up. You
stop swimming, you might die. So failure is not an option.
So I think that is a really big topic that I did want to talk to you about. I think, at least from my experience of talking to people don't understand how big of an issue on how we treat immigrants really is, and the people that are so build a wall, like anti-immigrant. They don't realize what they're actually against, because they don't understand what those people are coming from, what they go through to get here, and then what their lives are like here in America. So can you touch on that like a little bit?
Yeah, it goes back down to a place of privilege too, because we're very comfortable in the United States. We're very comfortable here, because even though we we struggle a lot. The United States isn't the best country, but we have it way better than other places, right? And I get it. Like, I get why we can't just help everybody and just bring everybody over and just, you know what I mean? The United States would be super packed and it would just be a mess, right?
There's a process.
There is a process. I wish the process was very different.
Was better. Yeah.
It was better. The process that we have right now isn't working. But when we see people dying to come over, and our first thought is they're just here to steal our jobs, or our first thought is they're just coming over here, why don't they fix their own countries? Yeah. We don't realize that sometimes fixing their own country isn't an option.
There's a reason why they're leaving their country.
Exactly. I would do anything for my child, and I believe that this is from both sides, all sides of whatever beliefs you have. You would do anything for your child. If you don't, you're probably a crappy parent, you know? But I mean, I would do anything for my daughter. Yeah. If that meant risking my life to protect her, right? So when we see parents bringing their children over here and stuff like that, we don't have that compassion. And I speak this from a personal perspective because, like, my father, his dad got killed when he came to the United States. He left because he had 10 brothers he had to take care of, right? And he was 16 years old. My dad raised himself since he was 5 years old. He had to live by himself and raise himself, right? And to come to the United States was the only option because his father had died. There were people that were coming after everything they owned. So the only way to sustain his mom and his 10 brothers was to make it to the United States, right? And this dude swam that river 13 times. I'm not kidding. Like, I would have gave up. I would have been like, all right, this is a sign from God. I'm not trying to go back. But he literally would get caught and thrown back, and he was just, let's go the next day. And I was just like, dang. I would have been like, okay, I would have just became a narco at that point. I would have been like, you know what? We just gonna make it work here. Like, I guess finding a new life ain't gonna work. But and my mom, you know, she was fleeing the war that was happening in El Salvador. For those who don't know, they were killing, they were raping kids. My mom says that she saw, they would put bombs in bottles on the street. So little kids could grab the bottle and, you know, they were getting raped, they were getting abused. And it was just a military city against these other people, right? And my mom says that they had to leave. They had to leave because there was just no other way. So her sisters were already here.
Reaction. Yeah, it's a natural desire.
And she had to bring 2 kids that weren't hers. They were my cousins. Over here, and she had to be in the trunk of a car, hiding. She says that all they got was crackers and water, and they had to split it between 3 days of a trip to make it here, just so they could survive. Because over there, the chances of you surviving or getting killed was over. You know, you were gonna get raped or killed, one or the other, right? Yeah. So you got here to the United States, and they fought for this life that we have now. And my mom understands. She's like, I feel like if our situation would have been good and amazing, there would have been no need to ever leave our country.
Why would you want to leave your country?
Yeah, but when you're in a space where it's horrible, you're in a fight or flight mode. Yeah. And what are you going to do? Are you going to be the weak people that don't survive, or are you going to be those people that are going to fight to survive? Yeah. So when she came here, you know, they made this whole life, and people think that it was easy. It wasn't easy. No. They lived in so much fear. My dad says that every time he saw an electric company, you know, with the flashing lights, he thought it was the migra. He would be hiding. He said, oh my God, they found me. My dad got paid $2.50 and had to have 3 jobs when he first showed up, and they would pay him $2.50, and he would work. He would only sleep 1 or 2 hours a day just to send everything that he made to his family, so his mom could survive and his brothers could survive.
At
right?
16?
At 16 years old.
Holy shit.
And he's been here ever since, and I'm grateful that they, they're U.S. citizens and stuff like that. But when I see those kids, those parents with those kids on their back, and they're swimming the Rio Bravo, and we could be like, damn, why would you put your kid through that? Your kid just died on your back because you didn't think, like, when you're swimming. And I remember my dad would say that river, nobody knew what would happen. It could be at your knees one day, and you're swimming, and as you're swimming, all of a sudden a weird current comes in and it floods you, and you don't know. It could be peaceful, and then all of a sudden you're gone. And sometimes these parents think, oh, we can make it, and then they don't make it.
Well, my husband and I watched a documentary on how many kids just choose to go and how many parents just send their kids. Yep. And I think it's really easy to think, like, why would you just send your kid? Like, what kind of parent are you? It's like, that was their only choice, like, was to put all of their money to sometimes pay the cartel. Like, can you imagine that? Like, no parent actually wants to do that. I never. But if I thought that was my child's only chance to get to a place where they would make it, obviously I'm not in that position, but I like hearing some of the stories that like these kids have to go through to get to the US, what their parents sent them just to get here. It like broke my heart, because I'm like, people don't understand what these people are actually going through. Like,
oh, they get raped on the way, they get killed on the way, they get left on the way, because these people are making money off of them too.
They're making money off of them, and there's no guarantee that they're going to make it, right? And like the river, like this little boy was talking, I think he was like maybe 8 or 10, and the cartel got them to the river and basically just gave them like a couple inner tubes, and you tied them together. I don't remember river or the body of water. I don't remember. But I know that was like, they basically had to float for a couple days. Yeah. And the little boy said that the night was the worst because you can't see anything. You would just hear either people, because they're dehydrated and they're freaking out, and you hear them screaming and they drown, or they get taken by something. And I'm like, a 10-year-old having to go through, he made it, which honestly like is amazing, but I'm like, I don't know, it just really made the situation really real for me, where it's like, I think I used to have that thought process, like, how could parents send their kids that way? But then I'm like, as a parent, I want my kids to have the best. Yeah. And obviously it's not the best situation, but that's the chance. And like, we're here trying to like judge people. Yeah. We're trying to do their best.
It reminds me of Moses and how the children were getting killed, and his mom was like, oh, I'm just going to put them in a basket, float them down the river, and hopefully a kind-hearted royal will grab the baby or something, or an alligator won't eat the baby, whatever, and send him off, and was okay with the the princess raising her child. Yeah. Because she didn't want to lose her child. And we see what Moses did, and God used them for greatness and stuff like that. But she had to give up her child to save his life. Yeah. Right? And it's really hard. And we don't comprehend it because we haven't been in that situation. Even though I hear the stories, I've never been in those situations.
People don't want to actually look into it. Like, they just want to say blanket statements and not actually look into what's going on.
I think that they think that they're bringing drugs over. But I will tell you this. Trust and believe that the drugs they're bringing over, these people that are coming through a river or jumping the border wall, aren't bringing the drugs that people are so afraid of. Those things, I don't want to get in trouble. Those things are accepted by our government, and they know. I personally know people who just have connections with our own government that bring stuff over. My God,
our government is so corrupt.
And it's super easy. Yes. Yeah. The thousands and thousands of drugs that are coming over, let's say fentanyl and cocaine and stuff like that, aren't going to be jumped over by one or two people. No. Or thousands of people even then.
There is truckloads.
Truckloads. And because you saw that truck of 56 immigrants that died, that heat exhaustion, and you're coming through these border checkpoints, and they have infrared lighting. You're telling me they can't see all of these people? You're telling me they can't see you just have people you pay off. People are corrupt. Listen, $20 is $20. But that's how they come, and that's how they do it. And we're never going to stop these people, but I feel like we should offer them a good path to being able to find a new life in America in a different way. Yeah, in a better way. I'm not saying let everybody in. Blah, blah, blah. No, we also want to vet them. We want to make sure they're good people.
But make it easier and cheaper.
Yes, and less risky. And that's all I advocate for, you know? And I hope that people understand and hear the story and are like, okay, maybe I should sit down and talk to a couple of them to understand where they came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I honestly would love to have you back on because I think we could go more into that stuff. But I would love to have you back for like a part 2.
I would love to be on here. I love it. We could just talk all day.
Talk. That's a good thing about a podcast is I can do what I like to do, which is just talk.
Yes. I love podcasting. Yes.
But I really do appreciate you coming and talking with me. I have loved your insight.
No, and thank you for being so vulnerable and having me on here. And I'm so grateful. I enjoy this. And I get to learn more about you, like in this way too, you know? Yeah. I know you, but I don't know everything. And I just love this. And people are going to relate to it. They're going to understand.
That's really what I want this podcast to be about. It's just a way for people to understand things that other people have gone through or relate to it or learn from it. And vulnerability. I'm really big on vulnerability and openness. So I want to shout out your ats.
Oh yeah, just follow me on Evalyn Juarez Official on everything, TikTok, Instagram. But yes, y'all, it was so amazing to be on here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here.
Of course. I will see you next time.
We'll see y'all. Peace.